Tackling the crime issue and high rate of shootings in Delaware's largest city is the goal for state, county, and city leaders. In fact, many believe they have the answers to the problem. One name you may recognize, and that's City Councilman Bud Freel. He's our first person this week. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. So you want to resurrect a plan that was used by the city in the 1970s and 1980s, as well as assign specific cell phone numbers to police officers. Tell me a little more about your plan again and why you feel it would actually work for the city.
First of all, I never refer to it as my plan because it's basically a concept that I put forth after going to numerous community meetings, listening to people talk, listening to fellow council members. And as you mentioned, a lot of retired police officers who worked what they would call a beat back in the 80s. But basically what it does is it assigns officers to a specific geographic area. And it's the same officers day in and day out. If I'm working a 6 to 6 shift, I go to the same location every day. When I come on duty and you, say as a member of Platoon B, are coming on, you would go to the same area every day. So I could say to you at the end of my shift, keep an eye on this corner. We have a lot of people hanging out. We haven't seen anything yet, but we think there's trouble coming. So that when you come on, you know automatically that's an area you want to watch. So it helps us try to combat the crime in the areas, not just the big things. We sometimes focus too much on the shootings and homicides, yes, and we forget about all the other things that are going on, house break-ins, car break-ins, just sometimes, harassment of our citizens and things like that. What I hope would develop from this is a couple things. First of all, you would see communication improve between the police and the community, and then the community to the police, because they would get to know their officers. We wouldn't hear comments anymore, well, we see these cars drive by, but we don't know who the police officers are. And then I think the other thing it would do is establish accountability. Right now, the police are out there, they're arresting people, but we don't see the situation getting any better. And I think with a plan like this, you can start holding some of the officers accountable for what's going on in their area. I read an article about Tampa recently. Tampa came in some years ago and redid everything as far as policing. They've seen a drop in crime, 65%. And the one thing that caught my eye the most was how they said they took officers, they took the supervisors, put them in a specific area and said, fix the problem. And that's what they did. Okay,
well, which brings me to some comments the mayor made, not specifically about you, but you've served on city council since 1997. You actually served as special assistant to the late mayor, Daniel Frawley. Why now? The mayor says, hey, there's so many people who've been working for the city or serving the city for so long, and now they have something to say.
Well, why now? Actually, this plan was put together some years back. I want to say almost 6 years ago. We first proposed this plan. It had full support from council, things like that. It did not, the former police chief did not do anything with it. What happened was, over the last year, we have some new council members, and they were talking to me saying, what do we do about this? We have constituents calling us saying, what are you as a council member going to do about crime? And I rolled it back out again. I said, well, what do you think of this? They liked it. I started talking at community meetings again, and the thing came back. So not that it's new, but you know what? Even if it was brand new, I think we should all be, whether it's council members, community members, looking for ideas, looking for solutions to these problems, and not being afraid to put them out there on the table for discussion. If we discuss them and don't work for whatever reason, fine, but at least we had a discussion.
And you told me you recently met with, I guess now the retired chief, Christine Dunning.
Yeah, the mayor had said at one point that I should be talking to the police department, so I set up a meeting with the police chief, and we had a good discussion. And at that meeting, she did tell me that they were looking at some new ideas and some new things that they would be rolling out in the very near future.
Okay, what do you think of her retirement?
Well, I've always liked Christine. I've known her for years. I think she's a hard worker. I think she just stepped into a very, very tough situation. I wish her well. I think she's probably very happy these days, to be honest with you. But now we have to bring a new chief in, and hopefully whoever that is will hit the ground running and we'll make some changes.
So, in the Mayor Dennis Williams actually believes in community policing. He calls for assigning or creating 3 policing sectors and assigning someone to each district. What do you think of his plan?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm very excited about it. He's broken the city into 3 sections. He has a captain running each sector, which I think is great. Before, we had 1 captain running all the patrol.
Okay.
He's also going to assign lieutenants and then the sergeants. And I just think the next step should be taking those 3 sectors and breaking them into smaller areas and then assigning the patrol officers. We are going to be sitting down hopefully in the very near future with the captain that will be working the west side of Wilmington, and those will be the kind of things we'll be discussing. So I think it's a positive step. But I want to see more about the plan on how they're going to build these relationships with the community, which I think are very important. And then I think there's other things that have to happen. I think we have to do more with technology. And, we're here in 2014. We still have officers that are doing everything with little notepads and pens in their pocket. And when they go home at night, all the notes go with them. Okay. I mean, you just don't do policing like that anymore. I mean,
a record 154 people were shot. Shootings. More than a dozen were actually fatal. But is community policing really the answer? We had former Mayor Jim Baker in, and he said, during his time growing up, people did not mingle or know the police officers. It was just simply about respect.
Well, I'm sorry to say, when Jim and I grew up, it was different. It was different, and today, I mean, you see where we need to have the police working closely with the community, because there isn't, I hate to say it, there isn't the same amount of trust that there was back then. And the only way you really develop that trust is for the community to get to know their officers. And I've seen it happen over the years. I mean, I've seen where a new officer will come into a community and it takes a while for the community to warm up to that person, where they'll start giving them information. Okay, you have community members, let's be honest about it, that are scared. They're scared to give information to police. They don't know if it's going to come back on them at some point. So there has to be that trust. And I think the best way to do it is having the same officers working a community and getting to know the people, and for the people to get to know the officers.
Okay. Also not talking mostly about the former mayor, but he also says, should we really be focused on crime? It keeps people out of the city as well as local companies, which ultimately hurts the local economy.
Well, I wish we could not talk about crime. I wish we could just ignore it. But the bottom line is we have the issue out there. We have a lot of good things happening here in the city of Wilmington. The riverfront, you have downtown, you have great restaurants along Lincoln Street, Union Street, Trolley Square. We have new housing going up all the time. But let's be honest about it, there's a cloud over our heads with this crime issue. And I think as city officials, we have to do everything we can to try to address it. I mean, we have some businesses downtown that are upset with the crime issue. Yeah. So to say we shouldn't be talking about it, well, that would be great, but that's not reality. It's there, and we as city officials, and I understand a lot of this comes from the outside too, but we as city officials have to do the best we can with our resources to try to address this issue. And at the same time, I think we have to work with the county. I think we have to work with state officials. I think we have to work with the federal officials to try to address these bigger problems, gun trafficking and things like that.